So it's after dinner, the kids have had the pasta, maybe some bread and a salad, and they're craving dessert. I've got just the thing. And I love this recipe, and I love recipes like this where you probably don't have to run out to the grocery store to make a quick dessert. You probably already have most of the ingredients right in your pantry. So say it's a Sunday and, you know, in the middle of the afternoon and Ireland's begging me to bake something and I don't feel like running to the grocery store. This is the perfect thing for a quick, you know, dessert to whip up after dinner, or on a day where you just don't feel like running, because most of the ingredients you'll have for this right in your pantry already, or stock up on that kind of thing so that you can whip up a quick dessert. And this is not too complicated either, so it's right up my alley, trust me. So they're called black tie brownies. We're tying it all together, from the Thai food to the bow tie pasta. We're trying anyway. So we're going to start out with a great tip that Pete Petoniak's wife Sarah gave me, and when it comes to making bars, it's so hard sometimes to get them out of the pan. Now I did that wrong actually, but definitely you want to spray your pan. But what I was meaning to do, Sarah at home, you're probably giggling, is line it with foil. I was getting ahead of myself here. Line your bar pans, whether this happens to be an 8x8 or a 9x13, line them with foil and then spray them. And then after these black tie brownies bake, they're really easy to get right out of the pan. All right, that's how you do it. Foil down first, then spray. If you don't have foil, just make sure and spray your pan, that's for sure. So I've got an 8x8 pan that we're using for this recipe. And we're going to use 1 stick of softened butter, softened at room temperature. If you're making this at the last minute, you can try very carefully on very low heat, checking it every couple seconds in the microwave, but you can very easily go from softened butter to melted butter, and you don't want to do that. So basically we've got 1 stick of butter, just checking the amount of the sugar here, 1 cup of sugar, teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to start creaming that together, and you can do this all in one bowl, which is, again, my kind of recipe. So I'm creaming the butter and sugar together. And with brownies and muffins and things like that, you always want to do the wet ingredients and then the dry ingredients. Sometimes you want to do them in separate bowls. In this one, we're just going to do it all in one, and it'll work out great. And the black tie part about this recipe is it's got both dark chocolate and white chocolate, just like a tuxedo, black tie affair. So creaming the butter and the sugar together until it starts to get fluffy. So we're almost there. You don't need to pull out the big KitchenAid mixer for this. I'm just going to use my little favorite hand mixer, which is what I use at home. Now at this point, we're going to add 2 eggs. So we have all that stuff, right? We've got butter, we've got sugar, we've got eggs. 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. All right. Now at this point, we're going to turn our beaters off, our mixer off, and we're going to do the rest by hand. And we've got our dry ingredients. We've got a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, which I know I have in my pantry, and I don't use it too much, but it's a great thing to have on hand if you need to whip up a quick batch of brownies. Oh, why don't I have my apron on? Oh well. Next time. And then 2/3 cup of flour, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder. I was looking at, is it baking powder or baking soda? Baking powder for this, 1/2 teaspoon. When it comes to baking, I always have my written recipe right there. So you don't want to, you know, you have to be exact when it comes to baking. And that's why I love cooking, and baking scares me sometimes, because you hate it when you go through all that trouble and then the recipe just doesn't turn out. So I always keep my written recipe, even if I've made it a zillion times. Ireland and I make our homemade chocolate chip cookies that turn out every time perfectly, but I still keep that recipe right there. Getting old, I can't remember everything. Okay, so at this point, this chocolate brownie batter goes into our foil greased line 8x8 pan. Preheated the oven 350, Ann? Yeah. And usually, I have to be honest, when it comes to brownies, I do the mix kind, but I'm always excited to find a recipe like this where if I don't have a box of the mix on hand, this works great. These are really fudgy. All that butter and sugar in there. Just kind of spread it out. And now here's where the white part, oh, if Ireland were around, she'd be a happy camper. Licking that spatula. Oh, Anne has got a big smile on her face. Okay, that's all right. Now, we've got some white chocolate, about a cup, and this is just a white chocolate bar that I found right in the baking section of the grocery store actually this morning. On my way to work, I realized we didn't have this in our pantry, so this is one of those things you might want to stock up on. So this just happens to be one bar. If you want to go hog wild, you could certainly do more, but just kind of press those in a little bit. And this baked for about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. We have some right here. And see how it just kind of separates away from the foil, makes it really easy to cut these into nice size squares, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So stick around. We're going to plate these up and give them a try.